Now, Donald Trump has led in the key state of Wisconsin, has the lead in the key state of Wisconsin at the moment, but votes are still being counted. So let's cross to Will Deneslow in Milwaukee. How are things looking there, Will?
Well, I'm here at a watch party for President Trump's supporters, and it's certainly a tense move here. He is currently leading as far as the latest projections, as far as Wisconsin is concerned, but they're certainly taking absolutely nothing for granted. The reason for that is that heading into this weekend, last weekend, what we saw from analysis coming out was that more than half of the state's registered voters had voted early, either through mail-in ballots or through the early voting process. Those are expected to be counted later than those that were provided in person on election day today. So that being said, that means that there are real many are wondering whether we're seeing at the moment in states like Wisconsin, like Michigan, like Pennsylvania, what's being dubbed as a red mirage, meaning those votes that were cast on November 3rd, the final day of voting, could potentially be more heavily leaning towards Republican. When those absentee ballots start to come through, that could swing the equation more in terms of Joe Biden's favor. But 4 years ago, here in Wisconsin, President Trump won the state by less than 23,000 votes. That just shows how close the race was 4 years ago. Many expecting now another incredibly tight race this time around as well.
Well, we should say to the people who are listening rather than watching us that you are wearing a mask, right? And this is highly relevant because the state you are in has had a huge resurgence of coronavirus. How much is that an issue in this election? Because everybody around you isn't masked up.
It's certainly an issue and could potentially be seen as a boon for both President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. The reason for that, you so rightly mentioned the spike in coronavirus cases. More than 2,000 deaths in Wisconsin alone, more than 200,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19. It now ranks third in the nation when it comes to COVID cases per capita. Now, of course, former Vice President Joe Biden has said that he wants to see more when it comes to listening to the science. Potentially, some voters see that as leading to more lockdowns going forward. Speaking to voters here at this watch party, they're really concerned about what that means for the economy. They say that that is a huge motivator for them to go to the polls in Donald Trump's favor. They believe that the president is doing a job when it comes to balancing COVID-19 and reopening the country's economy. So this is certainly seen as a huge motivating factor for both Democrats and Republicans that are looking at COVID-19, this pandemic, through very different lenses.
Well, what about the Black Lives Matter movement? How significant has that been in turning people out to vote?
It has certainly been a motivating factor. Of course, President Trump was in Kenosha, Wisconsin on Monday. It was his penultimate rally event. Of course, Kenosha is where Jacob Blake was shot multiple times by a police officer in August. That incident prompted protests in Kenosha as well as here in Milwaukee and elsewhere in the state of Wisconsin as well. Now, when you drive around Milwaukee and you see some people that are clearly Trump supporters, they have Trump-Pence signs in their front yards. What you also see in a number of these houses is pro-law enforcement signs right next to them, saying signs like support the police as well. President Trump has been here multiple times in Wisconsin with that very clear message that a vote for him is a vote for security, is a vote for law and order. Former Vice President Joe Biden has also made trips to Kenosha and other trips to here to Wisconsin, and his message is one of unity going forward. So this certainly is another key motivating factor for both Democrats and Republicans.
Well, so when are you expecting to have a definitive result in your state?
So the Supreme Court here in the US ruled that any absentee ballots received after 8 p.m. local time on November 3rd, so several hours ago, will not be counted. Democrats had previously wanted a 6-day extension if those absentee ballots were postmarked by November 3rd. Of course, we see in states like Pennsylvania, there's a couple of day leeway for those absentee ballots to be counted. That means that that window will be truncated here in Wisconsin. However, the Electoral Commission warned that we won't be able to see realistically a result here in the Badger State until 5 a.m. local time at the very earliest. A major reason for that is that because of state laws, no votes can be counted despite the record amount of absentee ballots and early votes that were counted. No votes could be touched until 7 a.m. this morning at the start of election day. So it's going to take a long time for those votes to be counted, and it's estimated that many of those absentee ballots will be the last to be counted.
Thank you, Will. Great to talk to you. That is Will Deneslow in Milwaukee in the state of Wisconsin, which is, as you would have been hearing, an absolutely critical state. And just looking at the numbers now on the computer screen, 75% of estimated votes counted, and that is leaning towards Donald Trump, 51.2%, Joe Biden, 47%. But as you heard Will point out there, a lot of early votes, half of the votes were mail-in votes, and as he mentioned, they weren't allowed to start counting those until 7 o'clock this morning.